The supplier interface is the opposite of the consumer interface. So instead of consuming a value, it supplies a value. So if you look at the documentation, you can see here we have a single abstract method called get, which returns a value of type t. So this interface is also a functional interface, and we can represent it using a lambda expression. Let me show you. So let's declare a supplier of double, call it get random, and set it to a lambda expression. Now this lambda expression should match the signature of this method. So it shouldn't have any parameters, and it should return a value of type t, in this case, double. So we type empty parentheses because we don't have any parameters, the lambda operator, and then in the body of this lambda, I'm going to return math.random. Now, because we have a single statement and we're simply returning a value, we can simplify this lambda expression. That is why the return keyword is grayed out. So we put the caret over here and press Alt and Enter to replace this with a simpler lambda. Take a look. So empty parentheses goes to math.random. We don't need the curly braces. We don't need the return keyword either. Now, this lambda expression represents a function. To call this function, we should type getRandom.get. So this will return the random value, and we can print it over here. So every time we run this program, we get a different value. Now, what you need to pay attention to here is that this function is not executed until we explicitly call it. This is called lazy evaluation. So the value is not generated until we explicitly ask for it. Also, just like the consumer interface, this supplier interface has a few specializations for working with primitive values. So we have double supplier, we have int supplier, we have long supplier, and Boolean supplier. So if you're working with primitive values, prefer to use these primitive specializations of the supplier interface because you don't pay the cost of auto-boxing a primitive value inside a reference type and then unboxing it later on. So that's all about the supplier interface. Next, we're going to talk about the functional interface.